nature adapts and grows over. And we have that in us because otherwise we couldn't adapt to each other. But we are unaware that we are limitless and everybody's because you exist. And I say this is perhaps it's the last sentence to say, we exist and life is, because there is no systemic why we live, is basically the process of finding being self-aware about our contribution to humanity.
Welcome to Business Therapy, the podcast that explores the intersection of business and mindfulness. In this show, we bring you stories and expert insights on how mindfulness can help you succeed in your career and lead a more fulfilling life. Let's talk about it on Business Therapy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 71 of Business Therapy. Today, we're excited to have Michaell Magrutsche on the show. Welcome, Michaell.
Welcome, Sam and Jonathan. Good to see you.
Same to you. So Michaell is we're going to structure a conversation today around human-centric versus system-centric thinking. Michaell has a fantastic background, a lot of fascinating things to share with us. Before we dive into the topic, Michaell, I'd love for you to just give our audience a little bit of background on yourself, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Okay, I was born in Vienna, Austria, and I was a sick child. I was allergies and eczema, so my childhood was really rough. And then I got into school, and in school I got the second punch in the face, which was basically, "Hey, you're dyslexic." That's what they said. That was they tested me afterwards in second grade or third grade, but I'm extremely dyslexic, and I found out like 5 years ago that I'm also dysgraphic. My hand-eye coordination my brain-hand coordination doesn't work. And so basically I had to repeat 3 grades till I couldn't do it anymore. And then basically the system said, "See ya, do whatever you want to do." And then I moved to America by myself. I worked, very cheap labor at the beginning, just because what they can be, couldn't even speak the language. And then, I got good. I really got good dealing with people. And I became arts commissioner of Newport Beach. I worked with Robert Evans, who did The Godfather and Love Story and whatever. I co-produced with him. I wrote 5 books, almost 6. It's my 6th. I can still not read. I have a still hard problem, but I wrote 6 books. So we are limitless. Humans are limitless, especially when we work together. And with other humans, I wouldn't be anywhere. Mm-hmm. Because, I couldn't, if I go just to system dynamics and try to be in our monopoly game that we all created, try to navigate in that, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
So this sounds like it's a segue into your concepts that you want to discuss today around system-driven versus human-centric thinking. Do you want to give us just a little bit of background on those 2 definitions from your perspective, and then we can discuss the concepts?
Yeah, my book, The Smart of Art, I wrote in that I wanted to solve a human problem. 97 to 99% of artists are existing around the poverty level. And what happened was when I dove into this, I realized that the art business is basically like a Walmart for art projects, for art artifacts. So the music, it's not about the creation, but the creation, there's so much value in the creation. I thought, oh my God, the art product is not about the art product, even though everybody says, it's not the product, it's so beautiful. And I found it's just a conversation that the artist has with his unconscious, and he has that conversation, and the art product is just a product, right? But the real value is for the artist because he learns how to, they said, there's yellow, I'm going to put red in, blah, blah, blah. So that was the basis that I realized, oh my God, we do this everywhere. We do this. We have lost. It's all systemic. It's all about selling a product, selling a service, selling, because all systems, and I discovered it too, are based on financial principles, which is a system itself. So I think that we are the gods. We are the gods of systems, right? We're not the gods of humans or animals or nature. And I think we have, and it's nobody's fault. It's nobody's, but I think it's slowly, we got drunk on our limitless ability to create. I mean, we created New York, we created Singapore, we created all these brands. And I think we got drunk of it, that we put systems above humans, even though we created it.
Michael, can you explain that a little bit more, though, the idea of the artist and what the artist's process is versus the system that's oriented toward the financial side of it?
Yeah, great, Jonathan. The thing with this, with art, I found, because you see, I'm the result of that. You know, I have no education, zero education, and I had to learn the language myself. I flunked English and French in my classes, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I found everything, all the wisdom is in the art creation, meaning, I'll give you an example. So when you see a symphony orchestra versus a CEO, C-level management, okay? In the C management, the top guys, the C-level doesn't know the guy with the shoe on the bottom, fixing a shoe, and if he doesn't do it, what happens? He gets fired. In art, if a symphony orchestra, if you have the best conductor, you have the best venue, you have everything like the C-level, the big company, the successful company. But if the lighting doesn't work, if the oboist doesn't work, if the little flute or the cello doesn't work, the whole thing goes under. So in art, I found, the more I dive into it, I found, wow, art has the blueprint of what humanly is possible together, not separate, me and not a win-lose. It's just always win-win. And if we lose, we all lose, And I thought, wow, that is amazing. And the more I dive into, I see that the result, if we want to find back, we want to find our, our strengths, our power, is to really dive into art creation, not in the art product. Product is the nice thing, it's another product like everything else. Because except 5 or 6 artists, how many artists is the system really interested in? Only the one society deems as artists or as valuable artists, or the history, which is also a system, the art history deems as, Van Gogh. You need to know about Van Gogh to actually can navigate in a system, in society, which is a system too.
How do you focus on art creation? Like, what does that look like? Or how is that different than what's happening now?
I think that is a solution. That is not to focus on it. I'd say if you want to get the awareness, because awareness trumps everything. So if I give you and say, Sam and Jonathan, okay, you're my little kids, and I'm gonna tell you not to touch the stove, and I give you a book to read, not to touch the stove. I give you steps to not touch the stove. You touch the stove, and once you touch the stove, you never touch the stove again. And that's the difference between knowledge and awareness. Knowledge is very linear. And that's why AI is completely, it's going to help us a lot, but nothing new. We're already bored with all this stuff, So what happens when AI does just the stuff that we do already? So that, now you get 100 emails a day. With AI, you get 200 emails, and they are so constructed that it looks like from a human. So now you're going to shut off. You just delete them all. You can't determine anymore if that's a human email or not, unless you know the person. See, that comes in the human connection.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe spend a little more time on what are the problems with the system. So I could see one example is that somebody talented like yourself who can produce a lot and can see a lot of connections and see the world very, with a different lens and give insight into it, that you didn't fit into the system. So you're shut out and you had to fight your way back to, or fight your way into sharing with the universe. So that's a problem. But like, what are some of the other problems with the systems that exist now?
Okay. So in this, I wanted to show you a little bit the history of that. So when people had a tribe, there was no problems. I mean, there were problems, but they were handled humanly. Okay. So the tribe expanded. People made babies and expanded. When a tribe expands, it's more systematic. It gets more system. So it's like in a company, there's a department that does this, that this. And when indigenous tribes, for example, they are like animals. When you look at animals fight, they fight really quick and then go away. So indigenous tribes don't take over other indigenous tribes. The stronger tribe prevails at the water source or the food source, and the other one, moves away. When they found a way to kill or whatever, one human being, which we are limitless, uses his power or his talent that he can influence people or whatever, say, okay, let's kill the other tribe. Let's kill the other tribe. Let's kill the other tribe. So the systemically of that, what happened is, there's woman and there's man. So men are better for, they can just shut off and kill. So, we got to separate them. We want a lot of men, number one. So we're going to nurture the man. And what are we going to do with woman? I don't know. Let's cook them and make more men and make more warriors and give us sex. And it's this separation of genders. And that's a systemic, because when you look in nature, the saber doesn't say, oh my God, there's a female giraffe or there's a male giraffe. It doesn't say that. It doesn't exist.
In that example, is the problem the system or is the problem the goals of the system?
Good question.
Well, if I could jump in, it sounds like you're more talking about the labels. It's the creation of a system. It's systematizing things which inherently don't need to be systematized, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And you lose and the problem is we came to this awesome, Sam, because we came to a problem where we forgot that we're all humans. It's okay to systemize. I'm not against, this is not a podcast about against systems. I'm just saying currently we adapt to systems. Humans adapt to systems, which they created, which is insane already. But we conditioned us in a way that now, today, we need to, with our adaptability that we have by nature, that's a superpower, adapt. I mean, like we three adapt to each other right now here. That's natural. Yeah. But if you say, okay, you attach to to a culture that is created for a very limited, not the limitless humans, but for a limited purpose. Like we make shoes, we make pens, we make whatever. We are an internet company. And there's a culture the culture has to support that goal. Then it gets very limited.
Right.
And it takes a lot of human life force to satisfy that.
Yeah. This speaks to me in terms of something that I've, heard and I've been learned before about the idea that you're talking about being limited. To be called a cog in a machine, for instance, somebody has to tell you you're a cog first. It's the fact that you've been labeled or you've been constrained by this idea that you have a role or you have a label that they try to put that on you so you can fit into an organized system. But in doing so, you try to fulfill that and it makes it so that you're limited generally just by having that container. Jonathan, sorry, I felt like I interrupted you.
No. But I want to stick on this idea of the system because Sam, you came in and if you could just, Sam, actually take through what you were thinking when I said, is it the problem, the system, or the goal? You focus back on the fact that a system is inherently problematic or limiting.
I don't think it's, and I'm just having, from what Michael's saying, and I think it's a very insightful point. When you talk about our need to create systems, it's not that a system is inherently good or bad. It's that human systems reality is beyond the complexity of humans to understand and systematize. So like you can create a simple system and it can work very effectively. But as we become more complex and our society and our civilization evolves, you cannot take things that are more complex than we can understand and then reduce them to systems. Because in doing such, you'll limit everything.
But the efficacy of having a system can't be denied. So go back to tribes. So if the tribe is at stake for its life, on one hand, you could say, well, the natural order of things is that a stronger tribe should come along and then, more vibrant tribes, grow from there. But if I'm thinking of just my tribe, then I'm going to try and create a system that's going to optimize my tribe. Are we saying that that's problematic in and of itself? Because it does lead to labels. It does lead to division of labor. It does lead to a system.
It's unconscious. We're unaware. So it's a lack of awareness. The awareness is, which we come back to. You see it all over the world now. All the systems are crumbling and people connect with each other. That's the big move on the podcast. And not because it's not about money, because you don't make money with podcasts. It's about the humans feel inherently to reconnect to each other because they have no chance, right? Yeah. So I have no chance with computers. I'm good in computer, but if I need help or something comes new that I'm not trained to, I'm off. I just when I've pop up stuff and I don't even understand what the pop up means. I read it 3 times. I can't understand what it means. And when I get emails I from coaches and everything, and I send back, I said, I don't understand what you want me to sell, to do, or anything. I don't understand what it is. I mean, there's emails that are 8 pages long with everything the guy does. So he's shooting fish in a barrel and said, hopefully somebody fit. But it's on such a surface level, which we are so much deeper. Like, look what you guys have engaged in with me. You make me aware. Because I've never talked it in that way with other people. I mean, I have my talking points, but I'm not prepared because I couldn't, because I'm neurodiverse. So my neurodiversity wouldn't let me prepare for anything. So I have to be in the moment all the time and give attention and whatever. And what Sam says, yes, 8 billion people, all different fingerprints, all different irises, all different DNA. And all these people have a drive to be inclusive. And the system says, no, you can't. So because, when you're an adolescent, because as a kid, you're the super smart, you know everything. You can deal with big horses, and horses respect you because you're not system conditioned yet. They're not going to trample a kid, and what happens is that we've lost this ability that we have all the tools in ourselves. And we are not unaware that we have a drive, because as an adolescent, you want to be part of a group. That's why you belong to a group, just to do whatever. Even if it's a bad group, you want to be part of. That's an instinct that never goes away. Well, the instinct of having babies goes away with 28 years. It's not instinctively anymore. It's just sexual. So there's no normal, and we need to be very aware if we want to make systems, which is my next book, the 7th book which will be all about how can we make system human relevant, and they serve us to actually lift our human potential. So what we're doing right now, we're using the system of Zoom or Riverside or wherever you guys are on. and we lift the human potential with the help, because you and I, we had to travel and whatever to meet each other in person. Obviously, it would have been better talk in person, but it needs to be, it needs to lift ultimately human potential and not just the system, make the systems just more static.
So can you give us some a teaser of the book? Because I'm trying to imagine how to balance the incredible amount of information and access to humans that we have today, like the connectivity that we could potentially have, with the either absence of a system or a system that would enable a more conscious connection than is happening right now.
You need to go history. So and I always take nature as my guide, because I cannot take a system by my guide because it's distorted and it's very limited. So what happens in nature is you exist because you're worthy because you exist. So the ant is exactly as worthy as the elephant. I always say that example to really burn it in. You exist in nature, and nature we know all, even all the systems admit nature is perfect, right? It always balances. So the power is not money. It's not more or less. It's not good or right. It's everybody's worthy, and we contribute by our existence. And our proof that we are worthy is never a question in nature, because we wouldn't be alive if we wouldn't be worthy. So when you go from that worthiness, you have to think, okay, we are a species of nature. Nobody says that anymore either, because we are lost. We don't know. So we are a species, and our superpower is not like an eagle sees sharp. The dolphin swims, better than us. Our thing is that we are self-aware, and the self-awareness isn't there, in my opinion, isn't there for anything other than if you are a creator animal, that we are that's why I call creativity is the first superpower, the creation of art. The creation is the first superpower. There would be no podcast if you guys didn't make a podcast, So we are creator animals, and we become self-aware by creating. You know more about yourself because you created the podcast before you even start talking. And then you start talking, you tweak it and whatever. In that tweaking, you become self-aware. And I say awareness trumps everything. It's about the awareness. It's not about the product. So that's the human value of it, that actually is exactly in nature. Like when something helps, and nature adapts. And by that creation, we adapt to our environment, to other humans. And so we can fit more effectively because nature is super effective, So we can fit the puzzle piece can fit. And I think, what was your question? I needed that for the question answer.
No. And I get it. But the question was, how do you merge this? Well, now I'll ask it differently. How do you allow for the uniqueness of each individual and to let that flourish with having the world work?
With awareness. And you have to, that's why I'm a creativity awareness educator. You have to make people aware. Once they're aware, I don't have to see. This is amazing. You change the question because I made you aware, and I knew I had to go there to otherwise we had linearly, answer. Okay, we have to do 1, 2, 3. So it is already answered. You don't need 3 steps. The moment you get, like you burn yourself on the stove, the rest of your life do not touch glowing things.
Right, but so let's take it as a specific example. Okay. So art, there's a lot of art that's created, and there's so much art and so much interest, but matching those two is very difficult because there's so much input coming at people. So actually finding art that is something that's relevant to me takes a lot of effort. Okay. So a system can help that process or not. So how do you put those two ideas?
Now the system doesn't help you to find art.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, what helps is you going in a gallery, you talking to your artist friends, you liking that person and see that person in the art. And it's so funny. I have to read it. You said that about art. That's about everything.
100%.
That's about everything. Nobody. What the essential thing is time, because we have so much product, and this was such a great question because we have not see with the best products out, the best art is out, but I have no idea to even know that the art is out, that to know it, let alone to engage it, or it engages me. And then if I get it, let's say, all this stuff, everybody gives you freebies right now, right? Because there's so much things. So you give them a free book. I get books and everything. And I said, no, please don't send it. Don't waste those resources, because I don't have the time to look at it. So it is, and we are so blind to it because the system says more. Every quarter, you have to hit your quota. You have to get your goal. And that's why I see, and people are pulled out from their consciousness of now, like we are all three now in the moment, and they're not aware. They're completely instinctively stressed with crap that is more and more, and everybody needs to produce because it's not enough that you have a website. Now you need to be social media. It's always more, and humans don't work with more. There's harvesters. They harvest when you harvest in the nature. There's years that are good. The plums are great this year. The plums are great next year, but the third year there's no plums, and you have to adapt. And in that adaptation, you find new products. You find new things. So always use the nature as an example. Then you will know how to make systems so you can even define a problem and say, okay, how do you market, which is, by the way, since the Second World War, is not a growing business, marketing, and everybody seems to be in marketing. It's I think 1% of GDP since the 2000. Obviously inflation thing, but it's 1% of GDP. It's not a growth business. When you market today and you buy into the marketing, you're basically saying, I'm stealing because it's not a growing business. It's not like I'm buying a Mercedes because I have a BMW, I'm buying a Mercedes. No, you change out things. You have a BMW and you get a Mercedes. And it's just basically stealing from each other. And there's subconscious, people don't feel good. People don't feel good being marketed to and marketing. Nobody feels good, but you have to do it to survive. And this comes really, now we get into the juice of it. In the last, before, our grandparents and grandparents worked probably physically harder than us, had less, but they lived life. Now we're working so hard, and they could live. I'm saying if you work 50 hours, 60 hours, they still lived. Now you have to work to survive. They had a house. They know they're not going to lose their house if they keep working. But today, you don't even know if you can afford the house because the system says, okay, your property tax is this, boom, or you had no property tax, now you have it. It's really, and you can't blame the people in the systems because they need to feed 5 kids too. So they think about themselves. So we need to see the psychological impact of systems separating us and be aware of it. Then we're not going to do it.
Could you? So I understand
Jonathan is like,
what's really interesting is a lot of almost all of what you're saying resonates, I could say, with both Sam and I. So in other words, this really goes to a lot of we're very aligned in philosophically. But So going back to the question of the system, let's say with art, and I appreciate this is writ large, it could be with everything. But with art specifically, I could already see in a more conscious system, there'd be a lot less noise in the system because we'd be amplifying a lot less. We would just be creation, and there'd be a lot less noise surrounding it. And people would only create when there's move to create, as opposed to as a product line. So that's part of it. Can you give other elements of a more conscious system?
Well, just to sneak in there too, a more conscious system is there is no system as we know it today. That's what we're talking about, right?
Not as we know it today.
Yeah.
But there should be a system, obviously, because we have too many people, and we need to have special. But if every person that works or creates or is in systems knows, hey, I shouldn't be sitting here to answer on a phone tree for 2 hours to get what I want. They said, okay, the system doesn't work. It doesn't serve me. It needs to serve to and we know it can never serve everyone perfectly because we are 8 billion people. They're all different. But the way it is now is we're using life force to make the system work. And that's the problem. And the problem is we're living in a constant state of lack because system says every quarter you need more, every quarter. And the system says it's already, the verbiage is in old days we had loss, so we lost money. Negative growth. Think about this. And this is conditioning all of us because one human says, okay, that my system survive, I'm going to put negative, I create negative growth. I create friendly fire. I create all these vernaculars, and we get conditioned by this because verbiage has a value, it's not just nothing. And so we get conditioned by that. Yeah. So I would say in art, I say we come back. I need to go always back. The problem with that is, with all systems, is the core is they're working on a financial principle, and financial principle generates winner and loser. We have 40% of working in the world have to live for $5.50 a day. 40% of the working force on the earth have to live with $5.50 a day. Now, if that is not enough to say, stop it, if we don't go to war and if we, not to fight the system, it's just, this is not right, then you cannot put something on the side because the financial system works. If you want money to work for you, you need to have money to invest. You need to have saved up stuff. There is, with $5.50, there's no way of saving. Play Monopoly without paper money that you get free for with play money. Play it. It's senseless. So we need to, I'm not for the general income or whatever, but it has to go in this way that every human, this is what I want, has enough to eat and have a roof over their head. And then I think the stress will de-stress. Because he says, you know what, I don't have a big house or I have not a lot of money, but I can feed myself and I can rest. Because rest isn't lazy, it's digesting your day. I'm not going on another podcast right afterwards. Actually, I do, but I'm saying I'm not jumping on another podcast after that, normally. This was a mistake. There was essentially conflict. But I wouldn't do that because I need to digest the day. That's why you sleep. You need to digest the influence that you have. And as I said, there's no lazy in nature. There's no devil in nature. And we can, and I'm not saying devil is not real. It's real because we make it up in our mind and we are creators. As we can create the devil, we can create heaven on earth, which art shows you all the time. If you want a glimpse of heaven on earth, look at a great movie, look at the great art, listen to a concert. That's heaven on earth.
Michael, I want to take just a detour for 1 second.
Go ahead.
So you were in a system, growing up and told that you're not fitting in, you're you don't have the capability, whatever you're being told. And now you're sitting here on this podcast and you're talking about advanced concepts, or at least advanced insight that boils down to maybe something as straightforward as mindfulness, but really just the way you're seeing the progression of history, the way you're seeing society. Obviously, this insight and the confidence by which you have it must have taken some sort of transformation. You must have, along your journey, like either seen something, read something. So was there something that influenced you, or particular things that influenced you that gave you the confidence to say, no, it's not me, it's the system?
First of all, it took me till I was 50 to see that, what you just said. So, once you get it, once you're aware, like you said, I have a different question. Like you don't need steps. It goes very quick. So I tried systemically what system dynamics requested of harder, push through, whatever. And I couldn't, because I didn't feel well. I just wasn't, with my neurodiversity, and I constantly got rejected. Because the rejection is, it's not a big deal when you're rejected, but what we do as humans. So if I say, "Oh, Jonathan, you're an idiot, Jonathan," that's my opinion. It's irrelevant, okay? Because I don't see why. I mean, if I say why you're an idiot, it's like. But
Sam has been waiting for a guest to finally notice.
No, but if I say that, Jonathan, it's very nothing, right? It's like, oh, US or whatever. But if what you do with that, and I got that from the fact that you said, the system didn't let you in. The system didn't say anything. The system doesn't have to say something.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Right? I said that because the system doesn't have to say anything, because you are an animal that wants to be part of the whole. And when you can't get in the whole, you must think there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. And also, when you're not born with the spirit, see, when you're born with a normal, just average, let's say an average spirit strength, okay, perhaps you die. It's like in nature, a weak gazelle, it's eaten by the land. But I was blessed, and that's why my ego is pretty much in control, because I know I could have not sitting here. I could have not being that what I am. I was blessed by having a strong spirit, because you couldn't survive what I went through, And it wasn't me. It wasn't freaking system things. I didn't read books and make. I don't have idols. I have humans that I look up to of what they created. Miles Davis. What he said about music. He said so many human things about that. There's no false note. Yes, there is no false note, because it's systemically that the note is right or wrong. It's about what you do with the false note. It's what they do. I just wrote I think we can actually add that to your episode. I wrote an article about mistakes. It's not the mistakes that we do. It's about, we have the creativity, endless creativity. It's about what we do with the mistakes.
But at 50, what happened was it just became clear to you, something crystallized in your head.
Obviously, you listen to stuff and you do stuff. I did a lot of it about health, because I had, I think, and then you find things and apply them. But it's not one person. It's like you pull from this. I mean, I like this one book, Eckhart Tolle, Being in the Moment, because it speaks to me. It helped my neurodiversity. Yeah. The power of, what is it saying?
Power of now, or New Earth.
Power of now. Yeah. So I listen to this because I can't read. So I can read, but I lose myself. But I listen to this 20 times at least, over and over, because it's not the words, it's the space in the words that he says. And I I'm very grateful to him, for example, but I'm not looking up to him. I don't want to live his life, I want to live my own life. I always think, oh, do you have any idols? No, I don't. Why would I have idols when I'm one of 8 billion people? Why would I have an idol? I have people, we influence each other. I mean, when you look at the brainwaves of us three, they're like all changing. They're all changing if we want or not. Even if Sam doesn't talk so much, it's changing his life. And see, the system would say, Sam, you are horrible because you're not involved. You're not saying too much. Irrelevant. Sam can sit here and look. And it's irrelevant. It's influencing the conversation. No, I have that often with 3 or 4 people. I have that often. I said, thank you, Sam, for being here. Even if you say nothing, because I know that he creates the space that we can have that conversation.
I'm trying to give space for Sam.
Well, after that, I think I'm better off silent. After he just complimented me for my silence. I'm doing a great job.
You know when you have to speak.
I know.
But this is a great show. This is a great show because you're aware already. So I don't have to create I cannot talk about this, in that detail with anybody.
Yeah.
So it's
tough because, we get really excited when we meet people like you because there's so much wisdom in the things you're saying, but it's always this challenge of how do you translate? Like now we can use the word in the system. People who live and born in the system and they fight for every goal. They spend every minute contemplating what they should do and what they should not do. It's hard to free people from that way of thinking. And for you, Eckhart Tolle helped. For us, we all have our own experiences, but to have that clarity and to understand that you are not the sum of the labels that people call you is very difficult for people to conceptualize. So, it's just a pleasure, but it is hard to translate that knowledge to people to help them see what you're saying it can be difficult.
Yeah, because we are so system defined.
Yeah.
And we're so conditioned to system navigate that we get lost to it. And it's literally, I think the best way to say it is system centric living versus human centric living. Human centric, and I find because when I coach people or consult businesses, I find when I see a system problem and I look at the human, I look right away at the human. I said, what is the human problem that the system creates that? How is the correlation between the system problem and the human problem? Where are they interacting? Where they're not interacting? When I solve the human problem, when I figure that out first, and then solve the human problem, the system is handled.
Yeah,
I find the system solution. It's insane. You just go to the human thing. Where's the human problem? And you not saying, oh, you need to adapt more to the system. No, I said when this happens, this is a mistake that always happens, or this is where the system we cannot deliver. We have to manipulate. We have to coerce people, and all that stuff. And I say, what is that? Do the people want to do that? Do people want to lie? People don't want to lie. People are benevolent. And in that is, in this benevolence is, again, I'm looking at human in nature. Humans are in general benevolent. They're like, we are species of nature. There is no bad people, bad animals or whatever. We are benevolent. And the lion eats the gazelle that's the weakest. And he doesn't eat the whole savannah so that they have the next 3 years has enough food to eat. So nature literally gives you the answers, but we're so blind because over generations we are conditioned. And we take that in our DNA. We need to be aware that we take that stuff in our DNA. But I think the only way around is that, am I human? When you feel ambiguous, you're just saying, what am I now feeling? Because I can't go to work tomorrow? Or, just think about it. Mothers that have a sick child, they stay home because the child is sick, but they feel super guilty because they're not going to work. That should never be. That should never be. It should be, you call, hey, Sam, my boy is sick, and you said, no problem, we handle it. That's why we constantly adapting. That's where you should use your adaptability. Where you say, okay, this guy has a sick child, boom. And not saying, oh, my car broke down or something, some systemic thing why he couldn't go to work, or the cop stopped me or something. It's crazy. And you see that. You see you see that. You feel that, right? It's just, and then you said, I'm resonating with you because I'm looking at it from a human-centric perspective. That's how you can communicate, by the way, Sam. You can communicate what we do by doing it human-centric to communicate human-centric.
Yeah.
I know we're coming up on time, but how do you write a book if you can't read?
I have the computer read it to me. So I use the system of a computer for me. I use all the systems for me. So that's why I say my growth is the most important. It's my one goal. What was your goal? To be aware as much as I can with everything, with you guys, with them walking on the street, somebody honking at me, somebody, in the bus, wherever I be. Everything is a reflection to make me grow, making me more aware.
And I ask it because if any listeners out there are feeling disaffected or they're not fitting into a system or they're having some sort of challenge, it's great to have an example here where there really are no limitations if you can accept that you are beautiful and that that you have a spirit that wants to contribute, and the problem is not you, it's the system, and separate yourself from that, and your power is incredible.
Wonderful. You said that you want to contribute. You're contributing by being alive. It doesn't matter if you sit on the street. I always say this example. I said, so why are you saying this? I said, the beggar on Fifth Avenue is begging on Fifth Avenue, right? And the people that walk on Fifth Avenue are upper middle class. They see the beggar and they all react to him. One go on the other side of the street, one engage him, give him money, one make a thing around it. And the sad thing is of that systemically the beggar think he's a loser. Systemically, the people that walk are either a winner, but they all unconsciously think I could end up like this because we all won. So because a war is somewhere else, that's why you need to be responsible for your humanity. You cannot, it's not, to give him money away. This has nothing to do with it. But being aware that human being, that living being has a purpose, not because I say so or systems say so, because nature says so. And to eradicate it is basically saying, oh, screw you, nature. Who cares? Screw Earth. The arrogance to say we need to save the Earth is insane. Please explain me scientifically why the Earth needs saving. We need saving, and let's say what it is. We need to save our habitat so we can survive, our part of nature that we can survive. So in Beijing, when all the pollution was on, they had to turn off all the other systems. So actually do you think the nature worried about, there's a bad air? No, it doesn't. We are like dinosaurs. If we die out, we die out. And nature is just growing over. And I would say, look at Chernobyl pictures. It just grows over. There's the systemic master mistake in Chernobyl, right? Carelessness, and it was very regimented, and probably the most controlled, always the most vulnerable. And when you look at pictures of Chernobyl now, it's all grown over. It's just nature adapts and grows over, and we have that in us because otherwise we couldn't adapt to each other. But we are unaware that we are limitless, and everybody's because you exist. And I say this is perhaps it's the last sentence to say, we exist, and life is, because there is no systemic why we live, is basically the process of finding our being self-aware about our contribution to humanity.
I like that idea of just you're already contributing. Very, very well. Very well said.
By existence, you cannot not be. This is the same. This name says we need to be equal. You are already equal. You don't have to. Women fight for equality. We are equality. If you see women as humans, or any race or any sexuality, you are already equal. You don't need to systemically equalize them or systemically give them value. It's crazy. It's insane.
A lot of insanity. I think we can end on that. There's a lot of mass insanity.
Stamp on it.
Yeah. Well, it's the challenge of our times. You know, I had a mentor once tell me the greatest civilization, they are always afflicted by this mass insanity that we're seeing now. It's part of the cycle. So on that note, we'll let you ruminate on that until we have another stimulating conversation next week. Michaell, we want to thank you for coming, sharing your insight, sharing your wisdom. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Anytime, guys.
Yeah.
Anytime you need me again or you have too many questions, call me.
Great.
We can do it together. I don't have the answer, but
yeah.
I to get the answer.
Sounds good. You know? Well, and for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in so much for another stimulating conversation. Hopefully it was stimulating for you. And otherwise, we will see you next week on Business Therapy. Thank you very much.